Welcome to the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dale Lolley. And, an interesting couple of days for the Steelers in their quarterback situation. On Monday, the Steelers released a quarterback depth chart that includes Mitch Trubisky at the top of it, which nobody blinks an eye at. And then Mason Rudolph is 2 and Kenny Pickett is 3. The next day, after everybody kind of blows up about this, because we got to have Kenny Pickett as the number 2, Mike Tomlin, they release another depth chart which has Pickett number 2 with Rudolph number 3. Mike Tomlin then has his press conference and announces that was just a clerical error, that Pickett is 2 and Rudolph 3. And I've been told it was an actual clerical error, but boy, I think you might have wanted to check that one out if you're Tomlin, considering how many times you've been asked about the quarterback position this summer. You had to know, that's going to be the thing that everybody looks at. Nobody cares necessarily that Jaylen Warren's number 2 on the running back depth chart behind Najee Harris. Although if you've listened to my show and read my stuff, you knew that was coming for sure all along here. Warren has been a guy that I've been on for quite some time now. But the quarterback position, I mean, let's face it, there's no bigger position in sports. And, they kind of made a mistake here with that one. Now, I'm actually kind of surprised because I really thought that what would happen would be that Rudolph would be number 2 and Pickett number 3. Even though the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks of training camp, Pickett had been the 2. Rudolph's still the guy with the more experience. And so do you really want, let's say, for example, on Sunday in Cincinnati, that something happens to Mitch Trubisky? Do you think that Kenny Pickett is ready to be thrown in there in Cincinnati on the road, and to face a team that just went to the Super Bowl? That could be a tough spot. That could be a tough spot. But at the same time, it does speak well to Pickett and his poise and everything that he did in training camp. He wasn't going to beat out Trubisky. That wasn't going to happen. The Steelers liked Trubisky. They signed him before they drafted Pickett. And they did that because they liked his skill set. They liked his experience. They liked everything that he brought to the table for them in terms of mobility and experience and savvy and leadership. And he's done nothing to dispel any of those things. He's done a very good job of showing. I mean, his teammates voted him team captain on Monday as a first-year player with this team. You don't need to see much more than that. It took Ben Roethlisberger several years before he was named a team captain. And so, I think that, Mitch Trubisky is liked by his teammates. He's respected by his teammates, and they'll go out there and they'll play to win for Mitch Trubisky. But don't discount the fact that Kenny Pickett won that number 2 job, because it would have been easy for Mike Tomlin to do what I suggested and have Pickett be the 3 and Rudolph the 2. And quite frankly, they could have done that and still gotten Pickett second team snaps. I don't know how many snaps every week Mason Rudolph would need necessarily to be the number 2, to get you in and out of the huddle. That's one of the things that people, I think, often discount with young quarterbacks. It's one of the reasons why the Steelers selected Chris Olave in the draft, because they weren't going to have to spend a lot of time with him, teaching him the nuances of running an NFL huddle, of getting the team in and out of the huddle on a regular basis, of commanding the huddle. And people might say, well, these guys do that all the time. Watch a college football game. Watch how many teams out there now hold signs up with Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse on them. And the whole team looks over to the sideline, and that's what they run. The quarterback's not putting anybody in the huddle. He's just not. And everything is a shotgun snap. You got to sometimes teach those guys how to take a snap under center. Steelers didn't want to do that with their fourth quarterback this year. They wanted somebody who was well-versed in those kind of things and could pick those things up quickly or had already done them. And that was Olodokon. They didn't have to spend a lot of time working with him so that they could run a practice. And that, in turn, allowed them to spend more time with Pickett, allowed them to spend more time with Trubisky because Olodokon didn't need that time. And they needed the arm. Every time they break off to do drill work, 2 quarterbacks go with the tight ends, 2 quarterbacks go with the wide receivers, and they're throwing patterns. You don't want one quarterback throwing all those passes. Olodokon did those things. He just didn't get any actual 11-on-11 work. But I digress. It's interesting that this happened the way that it did. It was just one more twist in the little drama that was the Steelers quarterback situation 2022. It took a long and circuitous way to get there, but they got there. And, it came out, I think, the way that a lot of people expected, although I know a lot of people want Kenny Pickett to be the starter. You should want Mitch Trubisky to be the starter, and you should want him to do well as a Steeler fan. Here's why. What did the Indianapolis Colts get for Carson Wentz? 2 third-round draft picks from the Washington Commanders to acquire, a quarterback who's, he's okay, but he's also making a whole bunch of money. What if Trubisky goes out there this year and lights it up? Maybe somebody gives you a second-round pick or a first-round pick for him next year. And before you say, oh, that's crazy talk, he's a quarterback. You could have that decision on your hands here at the end of this year if Trubisky goes out and plays well, and if they feel that Pickett is ready to be the starter next year. Those are both possibilities. You should be rooting for that. You should be supporting Mitch Trubisky with this because it's good for the betterment of the team. If he goes out there and stinks it up, all you got now next year is a backup. But if he goes out there and plays well, maybe you get a second and a third round draft pick for him in a trade. There are going to be teams looking for quarterbacks who get shut out in the draft. And Mitch Trubisky is still young enough and talented enough that, somebody might take a chance on him. That's what you should want. Anyways, I'm going to take a break. This is the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'll be back with more right after this. So by now, most of my listeners here know that this is my final week of working for DKPittsburghSports.com. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody out there who's watched, who's read, who's commented. You guys were, everything that made this job what it has been. Oftentimes, especially during football season, I'm working, 60 plus hours a week. And I couldn't do that if I didn't enjoy it. And part of the reason that I enjoyed it was because of you guys. I was walking into the Steelers facility today, and there was a guy riding a bike across the street, and he yells over at me, "Hey, Dale." And I don't know what reader it was. He didn't say, but he was a reader of the site. And he's like, "I just wanted to say congratulations. I commented on your piece that, you're leaving. You're a big reason why I subscribe to the site. That just means so much to me. It really does. I'm just a kid from Little Freiburg, PA. I didn't grow up in a big city. I didn't even grow up wanting to be a journalist. When I went to school, I was going to be a biology major. I was going to be a coach and teach biology and, coach baseball and basketball. And then they told me at one point that I could no longer be a biology major. That was not going to be allowed anymore because I was a bad biology major. So I was looking for something else to do. And this journalism thing seemed like, you know what? I played sports. I know sports. I can write. Let's give that a shot. 30 plus years later, here I am. I'm still doing it. And it's because of you people. I can't say thank you enough for the outpouring. It really did mean a lot to me. And I do want to thank Dejan and Lolley for bringing me on, taking a chance on me. We both took a chance, and it really worked out. And I'm going to miss being a part of this. But as I wrote in my story the other day, all things must pass. The site will survive. The site will flourish. Hopefully, so will I. You never know. But just want to again thank all of you for everything that you said, that you did, all the comments, good and bad. I enjoyed them all. It was always fun. Always. So anyways, that's going to do it for the Dale Lolley Show today. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll start breaking down some Bengals and Steelers a little bit more here as we get closer to season opener 2022. You can listen to all of our shows here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We have stories or shows on the Pirates, the Penguins, the Steelers, of course, Pitt and Penn State. Lots of good stuff here. Listen to the Ramon Foster Show as well. Nobody better at breaking it down than Ramon. And keep listening. You got a couple more days of these shows as well. Hopefully you enjoy them. I'll talk to you tomorrow.